back to chat about one of the composers and pieces that will be on our upcoming Berks Sinfonietta concert. This concert will be streaming on Saturday, February 27th at 7:30 p.m. And the composer I'm talking about is George Walker, and we will be performing his Wind Set for Woodwind Quintet. George Theophilus Walker was an extremely accomplished pianist and composer of the 20th century, going into the 21st century. He actually passed away fairly recently in 2018. He was born in 1922 in Washington, D.C. to a physician father from Jamaica, also named George T. Walker, and a mother named Rosa King Walker. His mother was the one who inspired him to take piano lessons at the age of 5, which really paved the way for him to become a young musical prodigy. This is demonstrated in his enrollment at the Oberlin School of Music at age 14 to earn his bachelor's of music, and by 1945 he became the first Black student to graduate from the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia. He earned both an artist's diploma in composing and piano there. By this time, he was an extremely accomplished pianist. He had soloed with the Philadelphia Orchestra, the Baltimore Symphony. He was the first Black musician to play New York's Town Hall. And in 1950, he became the first Black instrumentalist to sign on with a major performing agency or company, management company, called the National Concert Artists. This sign-on allowed him to tour around Europe, a lot of different countries in Europe. Later, he earned his doctoral of music at the New England Conservatory, again the first Black student to do so in 1956. And then in 1957, he decided to go to Paris to study with Nadia Boulanger, to study composing with her. That name might sound familiar because I've mentioned it before, as she has been a mentor for a lot of the well-known composers of the 20th century. After he studied with Nadia Boulanger, he did another performing stint throughout Europe and then decided to return to the United States. The next stage of his life was more focused on teaching and composing. He taught at various higher education establishments throughout the country, such as the Smith College in Massachusetts, the University of Colorado, the University of Delaware, the Peabody Institute, and Rutgers University, where he became a distinguished professor. Alongside his teaching endeavors, in 1971, Paul Kapp of General Music Publishing, a leading classical music publishing house, helped Walker publish some of his works, which really enabled him to become more well-known within the classical music landscape. Artists began championing his works, such as conductor Paul Freeman and Natalie Honduras, and he was receiving commissions from a lot of orchestras and establishments, such as the Cleveland Orchestra, the New York Phil, the Boston Symphony, the Eastman School of Music, the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts. In 1996, he became the first Black composer to win the Pulitzer Prize for Music with his orchestral song cycle entitled Lilacs for soprano and orchestra. The text for this piece is based off a Walt Whitman poem about Abraham Lincoln's assassination. Among the many awards he won throughout his life are 2 Guggenheim Fellowships, 2 Rockefeller Fellowships, a Fulbright, a John Hay Whitney Fellowship, 7 honorary doctoral degrees, and his most recent honor was an Aaron Copland Award from the ASCAP in 2012. He also was inducted into the Classical Music Hall of Fame. I wanted to mention, because I think it is important, that even though George Walker's life consisted of a lot of firsts in the musical world, which were well-deserved, I don't think that was because he was the first accomplished Black composer, but rather reflects more on the legacy of ignoring and silencing Black artists. So I'm really happy we get to commemorate him and continue commemorating him and learning about him. He wanted to make sure that people realized that overcoming cultural prejudice was certainly part of his life and is highlighted in some of his music, but his main focus was always creating vigorously and carefully crafted quality music, just like any other passionate performer or composer. We will be performing his Wind set for Woodwind Quintet, which was commissioned by the New Jersey Chamber Music Society, and it exists in 2 movements. It was premiered on May 2nd, 1999 at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in Newark, New Jersey. You will certainly hear the modernist flair of Walker's music within this piece, including lots of meter changes, not an obvious tonal center, and lots of fragmented melodies and rhythms. I find the music particularly exciting in its effortless mix of lyrical music and articulated and aggressive rhythmic music. These contrasting textures are sometimes used simultaneously and other times are switched between quickly, which I think makes the music never feel stagnant or boring. I think the quintet is also a story of disparate voices, each represented by the different instruments, trying to find unison among the parts, and certainly finding that unison at times. Really listen for those moments where the instruments feel like they're working together in cohesion and building momentum. But I think Walker ultimately decides that it's much more interesting and rich to bring a diversity of voices to the table, even if they don't always agree. And I think a good demonstration of this idea or this narrative is towards the end of the second movement. It feels like all the instruments are building towards a unison climax, and that sort of happens because at the end we're all sustaining long notes, but it still feels a little uneasy and in disagreement because of some rogue single voices and pairs of voices. So you'll hear a low articulated bassoon, a low articulated horn among the sustain, and you'll hear a successive statement of a descending aggressive half step in 2 sets of instruments, kind of saying, no, I want to end the piece, no, I want to end the piece. That's how I kind of hear it. So listen for those conversations, decide how you hear it, how the voices are bouncing off of each other and then coming together at moments. This piece is definitely one that you probably want to listen to a couple times just to really feel like you're engaging with all the parts and hearing how they fit together or don't fit together. Thanks so much for listening. I hope maybe you'll be inspired to learn more about George Walker's music or life. Be sure to tune in to Berks Sinfonietta's concert on Saturday, February 27th at 7:30 p.m. Thanks so much. Bye.